This report is dedicated to MyLab victims, the abductees and the children persecuted by these unspeakably evil forces.
Hey, this is Miles. I've taken a wrong turning. I'm completely lost, and this is where I've ended up. We're now going to pursue this. Basically, the road ahead is closed. The only means to get back is through Peasmore. So it's 2008, midnight, and I took a wrong turning, and I'm locked into going to Peasmore. Recording this and seeing what happens.
In Bases 2, Take 2, we detailed serious reports on mind control, population control systems, and the transhumanization of extraterrestrials with human beings, starting with children in British laboratories and secret underground bases in Berkshire, from whistleblower Barry King.
This program also involves microchipping individuals, genetic engineering and experimentation, and he's run from a base deep in the Berkshire countryside. I've been involved with this program for a number of years now. In fact, I was first inducted in 1972. I worked at the base, which is located underground at Peasmore in Berkshire, as a security officer.
This is Bryant the teddy bear. He's one of my personalities that I found when I found out I was a multiple personality due to mind control from the government. Right. He is the personality that protects the children from danger. So he's this mean, scruffy bear that protects the children from danger. And so I got a representation of him, and I bought this teddy bear in Canada.
Wonderful.
I was under military mind control when I was about 2 to 12 years old. And I think they dropped my program about 12, but then they tried to get me to self-destruct about 18.
We also highlight the means to fight back with advice from Matt Todd, who's been there, got the t-shirt and the implants to prove it. We expand on Matt's statements from Bases 2 and finally give you hope.
I'm standing with 3 humans. I'm standing with 3 greys. This American military personnel guy walks in, high-ranking personnel, covered, swearing his head off, all profanity under the sun. What the fuck is he doing here? What's he doing here?
We interview another victim, James Casbolt, who repeats King's claims and makes much further serious allegations against the US and UK intelligence and military services. We got this initial interview with James in Truro College during a Cornwall UFO conference.
Yeah, because normally we get a lot of remote viewing attacks, but normally it just bounces off a bit. But I know they brought some really powerful psychics in recently, especially at the last probe conference and this one. The psychic said that she was picking up they were doing a black mass, possibly in an underground base in London, directing the energy at me. And Ellis saw a grey orb floating around the room, and it stopped behind Sheridan Light. It threw out this black radiation in a upside down black triangle, like Ellis has got photographs of it. And I got really sick that night, vomiting and things like that.
Always take note of this, it's the most amazing machinery we've got.
Yeah, I need to listen to it more, because it never lets me down.
It never lets you down, it won't. And remember, we've got a new chakra called the Antakarana, and it's a sort of turquoise thing, and it's the gateway from the heart up through into the higher chakras. There's 24 above your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, like I said, the violet flame is the only thing that's really worked. And that sounds a bit new agey and all that.
Well, it's the only one that's really worked for me, apart from the tube. I do this at night and stuff, because I'm very violent, this is my
Yeah, me too, yeah.
I just have a tube like an underground tube down, straight down into the ground, straight up as high as you want to take it, and you just protect it.
Well, it's like, I say it's new agey, but a lot of the things that we were taught, like telepaths in Project Mannequin, remote viewing, a lot of that was based around new age principles and like the Kabbalah.
Well, they're so old. They're 3,000, 4,000 years old. They what?
They use technology as well. It's like a mixture of kind of black magic and military hardware. We were doing sort of yoga, advanced yoga and Tai Chi in the base in night 4. But we had these little boxes on our belts, little flashing boxes, and I wasn't told what they were doing, but what I picked up was they were like enhancing our brain waves. I'll meet you outside in 5 minutes then.
Okay.
How are you feeling? Every time you try to talk, there's some kind of an attack or a problem?
Yeah, I picked up it as possibly a remote viewer interfering psychic attack.
So how do you know that they've been picked up by a remote viewer?
I can pick up the frequencies. It gives off a certain radio frequency. Okay, the remote viewers work on enhanced brain waves, and brain waves and radio waves are one and the same thing. So when they project their consciousness, it's like projecting a radio wave across long distance. So part of my training in Project Mannequin was to, I can actually see, I can physically see radio waves. I can tune my eyes in like a digital camera.
Yeah.
And radio waves look like, so there's a radio tower, mobile tower there. I can see the radio waves coming out of it if I tune in. It's like it looks like a pebble being dropped into a pond and the ripples that come out of it.
So what brought you into Project Mannequin, and what kind of training did you go through then?
Basically, it was because I come from a Jewish family. It's actually a blue blood family, aristocratic family.
What does that mean?
We're descendants of the French royal family of the French Revolution. But I've got a friend who's a high-level Freemason involved in US intelligence, and he's helped me to trace this bloodline. Actually, descendants of the tribe of Dan, which is people call the Lost Tribe of Israel, one of the 12 tribes.
And where did they originate? What's the big deal about that particular tribe?
Well, I'll talk about the second part of their history. Basically, they came out of in the second part of history, come out of the Middle East at the time of the Exodus, and then they travelled up to Greece, where they were known as the Spartans. Everywhere they've gone, they were always master warriors and scientists. And
have you been able to trace them further before the Exodus, further back?
Yeah, further back. Originally, they come from Atlantis.
Right.
They're actually a genetically engineered race.
How do you know that? What kind of, is there documentation or?
There's a lot of. I'm involved with connections in the US intelligence community, and a lot of these guys are Freemasons, some Rosicrucians. They hold secret records.
What's the significance of that? What makes it so important to what you're talking about now?
Basically a hybrid race, genetically engineered race.
By who?
By probably the reptilians and Draconis star system.
Right.
Because I got a new book coming out just after Christmas called Agent Buried Alive.
Right. And what's the significance of the title?
Because a lot of my programming went on underground. I was kind of like buried alive.
Like, what do you mean by underground? Literally?
Literally in bases.
And what were those bases?
The AL499 in Berkshire. I grew up just near the base.
Right. That's what we've learned, being told by Barry King, is the Peasmore base.
Peasmore, that's it, yeah, Peasmore base. And also the CLC1 facility underneath Westminster.
Right.
That stands for Compartmented Learning Centre 1. That's where they have a lot of remote viewers, remote influencing. I was there in 94.
I mean, we've always been told that the Americans and the Russians had all this remote viewing stuff, and the British really never did anything. So, can you elaborate about that?
Well, the CLC1 base is, and the AL499 Peasmore, they're run by the NSA, which is American intelligence. But the
what's the NSA doing right underneath? London?
I think they're in control of a lot of the bases in different countries.
How do they get control of different? How do they get control of bases in other sovereign states? I mean, we're meant to be an independent state.
Right.
How does that?
From my understanding, it was the National Security Act in 1947.
Right.
Britain was part of that.
Yes.
So I think everybody handed their ultimate powers over to the American government in the National Security Act, whoever was part of that. And I know Britain was part of the National Security Act in 1947.
I mean, a lot of people would still think we have control of our own country. Is that?
Well, I think when it comes to military bases, the Americans are running it in this country. Like I say, the CLC-1 underneath Westminster is controlled by the NSA.
How far underneath Westminster? And is it part of a larger complex underneath Westminster?
Yeah, you've got to understand, Mars, when I was taken in the base, I was always drugged
Right.
when I was in there. And so the memories of actually going in there are very blurry. I remember when I was in the base, there's a connection to another base underneath Parliament. And that supposedly got reptilians and greys in. I mean, the first time...
How can you say that there's reptilians and greys under our Parliament? Under what kind of evidence? There's anything you can... How do you believe that, or how were you brought to understand that? Or did you witness it?
Because there's a very powerful remote viewer that I know who's remote viewed the base underneath Parliament and has said he saw greys and reptilians there. I've seen non-human entities in bases over the years.
When you say the non-human, you're not necessarily saying they're an alien, they're just not.
I saw strange animal types of creatures in cages. Possibly this is a continuation of Nazi super race projects, genetic creations, because I know one of the sub-projects of Mannequin I was involved in was called the Tigris program.
Yeah.
And in that they were taking modified animal DNA and injecting it into remote viewers, genetically enhanced espionage agents.
Right, the remote viewers, you've mentioned that I've asked a remote viewer to access the base. So I mean, are these remote viewers independent of the other remote viewers, or is there a team of remote viewers which is different? Or?
This is an independent remote viewer, the one that's remote viewed the Parliament base.
Yeah.
I mean...
what have you seen?
Okay, what have I seen? I've seen a lot over the years. First memory was in 1981. I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I was at school in London. Basically, the middle of 1981. I was driven up to the Greenham Common entrance in a Ford Sierra.
Yeah.
And there was two guys in the front seat, and we drove up to the gates. The gates opened, and one of the guys turned round and said to me, "They keep nuclear weapons here." And from my understanding, that's actually a front. It's a mind control operation, kidnapping children.
Was that during the Greenham Common protester movement when they had the cruise missiles there? Allegedly had the cruise missiles there.
This was in the middle. This was in the middle of 1981 when I was taken in there. I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Basically, the gates opened. We drove in. Drove along. We drove down an underground road there, because that's codenamed the Bravo entrance to the AL499 base. Drove down quite far to an underground car park, underground, and got out. And there was a group of 15 other children there. We were kind of huddled in the corner, but there's actually a military truck parked opposite.
Yeah.
They're quite a big one, and then there was two. You have a car park, you have a man in a booth, and he presses the button when the things come up.
Yeah.
There was two of them, because it was a two-lane road underground. There was one on each road. And they went further underground. Once things open, they let you in.
Yeah.
But we were, the 15 children, we were all huddled in the corner and given blankets. And then there was a door on the right. And we were taken in the door on the right by military officers. We were taken in, and it was like went through a corridor, and there's like a classroom set in there. tables and chairs, and we sat down. We all sat down. And we were given like puzzles, like geometrical shapes to put together.
Yeah.
And what they were doing there is we were all identified psychics, because it was the Project Oak Tree in the 50s, was before Project Mannequin. That was a genetic bloodline study, and that was run from Harwell Genetics Labs in Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
And that
Which is also connected to this basement.
Yeah, that's the Delta entrance.
Yeah.
Harwell, that goes down to the AL 499.
Harwell's where the Rutherford Appleton Laboratories.
Yeah, the genetics labs. Yeah. But the Harwell genetics study, it was called Project Oak Tree, and that was connected to all the major hospitals in the country. It still is. They're still looking for psychic children.
In other words, they're marking their medical records to check who's what. How do they do that? Do you know how they do that? Is there any mechanism? No.
I'm not exactly sure how they do it.
So you don't know what to look for in your medical records to see whether you've been identified as a...
Well, Barry King says it comes up on your records that you're part of a government genetic survey, but it doesn't say what that survey is. And all your medical records are actually routed through the NSA, through Harwell. Basically, they're looking for blue bloods, children of these bloodlines.
Is this connected to the blue ETs, which were involved with humanity? There's a Greece, there's the greys, and you've got the blues. Is that any connection with them?
Basically, I think you've got the reptilians have high degrees of copper in their blood. So actually it comes out blue.
Right.
And it's people with rhesus negative, they have massive amounts of copper in their blood. They process oxygen. They process a lot more oxygen in the blood than the rhesus positive, and rhesus negative is very rare. It's about 4 or 5% of the population.
Yeah.
And then the amount of oxygen you can process in the blood, that determines psychic ability. It's like in yoga and Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Processing the oxygen in the blood, that develops psychic abilities.
Yeah.
So basically these bloodlines are naturally psychic. Again, right, because they're trying to dampen down everyone's psychic abilities and bring the New World Order in. So people aren't aware of it. It's, they're basically the group of children that I was programmed with were all descendants of the tribe of Dan.
Yeah.
Again, just to explain a little bit about them, they come out of the Middle East at the time of the Exodus.
Yeah.
They went up to Greece with the Spartans, I mentioned that, and they went up to France and other places in Europe. They were the Merovingian kings there, and other royal bloodlines. From there they travelled up to Great Britain and Ireland in America.
Yeah.
In Ireland they were known as the Tuatha De Danann kings there. In America their symbol's an eagle, and that's the symbol that the American coat of arms, the national security agency, is the eagle, it's the tribe of Dan. Basically this group, this genetic group, we were all descendants of the tribe of Dan.
Does the comic book The Eagle and Dan Dare have any relevance to that?
I think a lot of these...
the Mekong, the ET, that's a 1950s comic book in England.
I think, to be honest, that I'm seeing a lot of this, a lot of the sub-projects of Mannequin in films and in X-Men comics. They're taking bits out of it. Basically...
Can you know of anything current?
Yeah, there's just a new X-Men comic come out called The Tomorrow People. The Tomorrow People is
Tomorrow People was, of course, a psychic TV program back in the 1970s.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they called them Tomorrow People, and they were enhanced psychic people.
Right.
And it was a science fiction show.
Right.
Called that very name, The Tomorrow People.
Right. Because basically The Tomorrow People was the name of the project at the CRC-1 base underneath Westminster. It was the remote viewing project.
Yeah.
It was called The Tomorrow People.
And they have special psychic ability and, continue.
But yeah, the remote viewing and remote influencing.
That's an example of television, children's television being used to actually inform of current secret projects. There's no other way you can find out.
Well, basically you've... I don't know whether it's part of a public education program to get people slowly desensitised to it, or possibly it's just an inside joke by the NSA. They're saying, we're putting it right in your face what's going on, you're too dumb, you can't even notice.
Yeah, I think it's more likely.
I'd probably go with the latter.
Yeah.
But I mean, these NSA guys that have helped me. Basically, I signed a contract with one of them, an NSA non-disclosure agreement. I can show you a copy of it at some point. But on Section 5, it says any classified information that you're given, if you create any films or books, comics from it, you have to give a percentage to the National Security Agency.
Oh, so they'll let you talk about it, provided they get a handful. So it's not like the Official Secrets Act then?
It's like an American version of the Official Secrecies Act, yeah, basically.
You do talk about we want a royalty?
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know, like I say, they're putting out a lot of these real black projects in films, and, you know, it's...
on the basis nobody really believes it and it's just a film.
Well, it's like you got Porton Down Biowarfare Centre. It's a big underground base below that. They're creating...
Is that connected to Boston Down?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's a base underneath Wiltshire. And I know they're all connected around the country through tunnel, trains and roads underground. So, but basically the base underneath Porton Down Biowarfare Facility, that's creating horrendous biowarfare weapons. Some of them, it's like a gas, but it damages your brain. It throws your consciousness into like the lower animal instincts. So you go crazy and violent.
Yeah.
And
what kind of gas is that?
I don't know the name of it. I've seen certain things over the years which I don't feel comfortable talking about now.
Right.
But I do know 100% they've got this biowarfare weapon.
So if you had a suitcase or something, you open it up, it would blow up in your face or something like that?
I don't know how it works exactly. But I know it could possibly just be an airborne thing, come out. But I don't know 100%, but I know what it does. I know the effects. I've seen the effects of it in a biowarfare test.
Permanent? Is it a permanent thing?
Permanent, yeah.
It affects the brain?
Affects the brain.
So it's a nerve gas of some kind?
I don't know exactly what it is, but I know I've seen the effects of it. I'm in a biowarfare test in Project Mannequin.
Is that on a film or in real people?
No, I've seen real people, a biowarfare test.
And those people are...
Those people, they were possibly homeless people. They were locked in a room, in a sealed room. I get really twitchy talking about it.
Can you identify any other kind of experiments like that where they've used people like that?
I saw, over the years, this was basically, I went through 4 military abductions last year.
Last year?
Last year,
That's the year 2006?
2006.
Military abduction or in my lab?
Yeah, my lab.
Can you describe what happened in those?
Four different ones. I've gone through quite a few my labs over the years, but I've never gone through 4 in a year before. Basically, they needed to get certain genetic procedures in place before my 30th birthday, because when you hit 30, you start to get a lot of your memories back. Right. I think neural pathways open up in the brain.
So is that how you're able to talk about this now?
Yeah, I still get really twitchy talking about things, certain things I've seen over the years.
I think if you can concentrate on what you personally witnessed, that would be good.
Okay. In one of the military abductions towards the end of 2006, what's actually happened, how I know some of the bases I was at. One of them was at the Monsoon 1 facility.
Which one?
Monsoon 1 was below RAF Lakenheath, it's about 90 miles of London. I was there in a place called the Proteus Labs.
That's the Proteus Labs.
That's what they called it.
It's called Monsoon 1.
Monsoon 1.
Underneath
RAF Lakenheath, yeah. Basically, how I got to these places was because I'm implanted. I'm still under a lot of mind control. But I can be triggered to do things, and I'll go and do it against my will, and I won't remember doing them afterwards.
Yeah.
So I have vague memories
like
of it.
a Manchurian candidate?
Yeah, that's what Project Mannequin is, to create Manchurian candidates. Yeah. So basically...
what kind of implant are you talking about? Are you talking about these little tiny things? Or?
Cranial implants. I've got one little implant here on the back, one on the right hand side. There's actually a wire. It's a copper wire that goes round, connects to an implant there.
Right.
Got
your teeth?
No, it's next to my jaw there.
Right.
And a little monitor there, possibly other things I don't know about.
Is there any way that that can be verified by X-ray or anything like that?
I'm looking to get private X-ray some point, and I want these to,
Or is the material that's being used some kind of material which isn't metallic, so it's very close to body tissue, so it's not visible on X-ray?
I think some of it is like crystal and body tissue, but I know some of the implants do show up on X-ray and others don't, so I have to wait and see.
I was basically walking through what appeared to be a building with civil servants and military staff, and I don't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for something, and I was basically out the back of the building, and I was going to go back through the back door, and someone caught me out the back, and it was someone who, how can I describe it? I know, but I think they're being used for certain kinds of espionage. You can use souls, you can use people through manipulation and control. Anyway, she was basically manipulated into doing that.
So was this a civil servant building in this country?
Yes, it was.
Can you say the location?
No, I can't. No.
What was the function of the building?
The function was basically to, from what I could describe, was I was being monitored by certain people who were in the building, who were aware I was in the building. So it's almost like someone knew I was coming, and that person also had to be pretty clairvoyant and pretty switched on to find out when I was in the building. And that's the time when I said I almost got hit, but I ducked far too quickly. So that way you have uncontrollable speed when you're out of your body. You can move from here to there to everywhere.
So you ducked quickly?
Yeah.
But you still got hit?
No.
Sorry, you got hit?
No, this is prior to getting hit.
Right.
Went out the back of the building, I observed 3 people who looked familiar. So I stopped and turned, and I was hit with 4 darts in the stomach.
They were fired by devices that they had?
It looks like a gun, but it's not a gun, because you're not in any physical form, and neither are they.
So they're essentially etheric guards?
They are, I'd say they were vampires that are being used, but they're unaware that they're actually being used on that side of their life. They're usually on a lot of drugs, you name it.
So you mean, what do you mean by vampires? That's got
well,
you're talking about human beings?
Yeah, human beings.
In their etheric form?
Yeah, it's the human being's etheric form is being used, if you like, for negative assignments, that sort of thing. Very, very, I think it's very good, should I say, very deep mind control.
Psychic warfare?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you mean by the use of drugs that would make them usable?
It would basically make them not aware of what's going on in their spiritual life. You know, they're very much unaware. They wake up completely unaware of what they've been doing, or even if they've been out of their body, or even been abducted, they'd be completely unaware of it the following day. You know,
would they be able to live on a day-to-day life while their etheric body is in use elsewhere without them realizing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would be by the use of drugs? Food? Just the food that people eat?
No. It's usually based on abuse as well. But I don't want to go into all that.
Yeah.
Not today, not right now.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Kathy O'Brien's written a lot of stuff about what's going on and stuff like that. But people can actually be used as like etheric assassins.
Yeah.
Because the drugs will take them out of their body. They have no control of their innate self or their spiritual reality.
When you say drugs taken out of the body?
Well, drugs could help people. Drugs will induce. Some drugs can induce OBEs, and then some drugs will. Some of these people that smoke a lot of cannabis, they don't have a full bonded connection to their spiritual or their, how can we put it, out of their inner or their self, their spiritual self. They're not aware of it. They've not done anything to find out about it. I mean, I've known loads of people like that, especially when they're at art college. They just sit around and smoke dope for years, and so they're almost like robots. You know, so they're not aware of what's going on whilst they're asleep.
A few years back I was getting really bad nosebleeds and intense headaches that were ruining my life. I couldn't watch TV. And I was actually had to sit in a dark room every night for about 3 months at night because light would hurt my eyes. Yeah, it was a nightmare. I felt like kind of drills were going into my eyes. It was like ruining my life. Some real heavy painkillers, and basically I went for an X-ray, but they wouldn't show me the results of it. And then after that, this plastic material came out my nose, and I was blowing it. Yeah. It stayed there, but then it disintegrated a couple of days later. But it was like hard plastic, and once that came out, the pain, the pressure went. But I mean, possibly where this stuff is happening, these procedures are taking place, is, for instance, the Proteus labs, the genetics labs on Deep Monsoon 1. Basically, what happened at the end of 2006, and this is around August. It was the latter part of August. Something happened at the beginning of August as well, but I'll concentrate on this. Fell asleep at 2:30 in the morning. Woke up 45 minutes later, got dressed, headed out the front door, down to the local cliffs in the middle of nowhere. Basically there was a firefly waiting for me, black triangle disc, which is a abduction craft.
That's the British version of the Stealth.
Yeah.
But it hovers.
Yeah, a very small craft. Yeah. And next thing I know, I'm walking up a ramp on there. There's all special forces guys and they're dressed in black uniform with no insignia on it. Yeah. And I went in and there's a ramp at the back. I walked onto it. There's like the main section's like this, and there's 6 seats on each side. They face each other like a military plane, like a passenger jet on board, like a military plane, opposite each other. And then at the front there's a cockpit with 2 seats in it. And I took my place down on the right hand side at the end. I was in like a trance, sort of drug state by then, because I was under a lot, triggered to do that. And took off, flew, didn't see where we were going. Aimed down.
Windows inside this thing?
The only window is at the front of the cockpit, and there's no door. But I couldn't. When you're in the light things, you can't turn your head. You can only look a certain direction. It's like you're you're like a robot, you're under total control. And then we went down. Next thing I know was we're in a room, a large room. There was a cage on the left-hand corner, and I could see the side of the bars, but I couldn't look to see what was in the cage. And then there was basically there was a door there and a door there. There's basically a door on the right-hand side there, and there was 3 doctor type, scientist types in white lab coats, and there was 2 other people, and we were lined up against the wall like this. Yeah. And there was another room just next to it on the left. We were taken in, and there were 3 pods in that room lined up. They looked like kind of small telephone boxes, but they were humming with like ELF, like radio waves, like that. And they took the woman that's next to me, she was about 40, blonde hair. They took her, and as the pod was, as it was humming, as she was getting led to it, she started to seem to be having an orgasm, and started to get really sexually aroused. And as she got in, she was begging to be put in it. As she got closer, and through my research, I found they've got these machines that artificially enhance an orgasmic state. Psychic energy and sexual energy is one and the same. So they're increasing sexual energy, and that increases the psychic energy. Yeah. That's basically it. And then they put her in. She was in it for about a minute, then they took her out, and then they put me in it. Yeah. Took me out, and then the doctor said to me, we've just installed a Proteus program into you. And these are the Proteus labs. That's what he said. Because in a lot of the military abductions, they explain to me what's going on, what's happening. They tell me what's going on. They say this is called this. This is we're in this place.
What happened to you physically when you got hit?
Well, I looked down, and there were physical wounds, but they healed over very quickly.
This is in your etheric body?
Yeah. I'm still physically aware of my body, even though I'm out of my body. My consciousness carries me with it. So I still have this.
You still have the implants?
No, I still have this.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay.
This is still here. This can still slap you around the head, but I'm not in it. This is kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, it's all energetics. It's pure energetics. I mean, Darren Brown uses it. I've seen him push kung fu artists over just by putting his palm up against
But
them.
he's a mere illusionist.
Yeah, but I've seen him push over martial arts experts by messing around with their energy field and just shoving them over.
It's a super soldier project. Proteus is a Greek word and means the first of a kind.
Yeah.
They're creating like a new race of sleepers, Mancunian candidate with psychic abilities. They want to use them for the New World Order. They're waiting to go into action. Certain things happen. And then just after we came out the pods, we were taken into the room, and the scientists walked over to the door on the right and opened it and brought out these deformed humans, like horrible genetic sort of lumps on their head and like sort of elongated arms, things like that. They were human, they weren't aliens, they were just genetically deformed. And then we were up against the wall again, and they brought them in front of us, and the doctor said to the one that was opposite me, he said, you have to go close to his face and speak to him in his face, or he will go into denial that this is happening and the programming won't take properly.
Right.
So this deformed human come close to my face, started swearing at me in my face, and I could speak English, and like had a British accent.
Yeah.
And I was trying to shout, like tell it to fuck off.
Yeah.
But I couldn't speak. I was like this. I was like paralysed. I couldn't speak. And
I switched the oscillator on, the multi-wave oscillator on, but without the antennas. I'm just running the Tesla coil, so it's sparking and just filling the room full of ozone. And I just had an idea and a thought: what happens if this spark jumps across to an orgone generator? So I put them side by side, and the spark's like slowly jumping across, and I can see and smell this energy, because I can see energy, I can see auras. I can see yours now, it's nice and blue.
Oh my God.
And I was sitting there on the bed, I was looking through the local newspaper that drops through the door, and I could hear it buzzing away and fizzing, and I was looking out the corner of my eye, and the room's filling with this blue energy. Filling. It's probably about 5-6 foot off the bed by now, off the floor by now. The whole apparatus is on the floor. Anyway, I'm reading the newspaper, lying back on the bed, which is upstairs, and I hear a sound like something like when you hear two tomcats fighting at night. They make all those weird whiny noises. They sit around and crouch around and moan. And also very similar is pigs, when they know they're going to slaughter, that high-pitched squeal. It was a combination of that and that together, and I thought it was quite weird because it was broad daylight, there were no pigs around, and there certainly weren't any tomcats that I knew of sitting outside my window fighting. It was broad daylight. Anyway, so there I read my newspaper, and this noise is getting louder, and I can't understand it, so I just thought, so I put the newspaper down, and I look across the room. I'm like this, and there's two grey, they're quite tall greys, they were half in the floor and half out the floor, and they were still about this tall, so they weren't short greys. And they were going nuts, they were screaming, they were flailing their arms around like they're in severe pain. So they've obviously jumped into this reality to find out what's going on, because the combination of the Tesla coil pumping into an orgone generator.
You disturbed them in this reality already?
They're already here. They pop in and out whenever they want. But I think they popped in, and when they popped in, they had the biggest shock of their life. They were screaming in pain, and it sounded like that sound I just described to you. And then it's almost like they moved back out of reality. They stepped out.
How do they do that?
They just basically they lose density, so you can see them, but then you can almost start seeing through them, and then they're gone.
These deformed humans, they look like John Merrick, the Elephant Man. And after this experience happened, I started researching what Proteus means. I'd never heard the word before. And I found out that it's a Greek name, it means the first of a kind. And Then
so this is August of 2006.
Yeah, latter part of August. Yeah, and I basically, and then they look like John Merrick, the Elephant Man. So I started researching a bit about John Merrick, and I found out that his condition was called the Proteus syndrome, and it had been coined by a Jewish doctor. And this is what these things look like. And then Barry King told me that RAF Lakenheath is connected to the Project Mannequin.
Yeah.
You know, the base there, they take a lot of the people there for programming genetic enhancements. And I said, I spoke to an NSA contact, and I said, you know, I was in the Proteus labs. You know, I was taken there by aircraft. 2006, I said to him, you know, where's the Proteus labs? And he checked his computer and he said, oh, it's a facility called Monsoon 1. Yeah. And I said, oh, where's Monsoon 1? Because it's underneath RAF Lakenheath. And then Barry King had told me RAF Lakenheath is part of Project Mannequin. There was harassment in in the evenings by MIBs.
What do they look like?
These were just, again, special forces guys that were dressed in black uniforms with no insignia on. The same guys the same type of uniforms that I saw the guys in the Firefly wearing. I stayed at a friend's in Southampton just before this, and we stayed in a jewellery shop. He's got a jewellery shop there. We stayed there, and you know, we were there and we were going off, like looking at military bases and like off sort of orb, taking photographs of orbs and stuff like that. And I left, and that night he was asleep in the shop, and these two guys in these black military uniforms stood outside his shop, and they what they were doing was he's got these metal shutters in front of his shop, and they're not electronically controlled. You have to pull them up and down with your hands. And they were standing there, and they were using some sort of psychic abilities, and they were lifting the shutters up telepathically. The shutters were standing there, and the shutters were coming up and then going and crashing down, and coming up and going and crashing down.
What age of people were these?
The two guys.
Yeah.
One of them was really big. One of them was about 6'3", like really muscular. He was a white guy. They said they were about in their 30s. Another guy was smaller, Asian. And but Sahel was asleep. But what happened was all the neighbours came out, because it's a small little Asian community in Southampton. And all the neighbours came out, and you know, what's the noise about? And ended up 40 neighbours outside the shop. When all the neighbours come out, these guys slipped off, but the shutters carried on coming up and coming down, like, and they did that for an hour, just going up and down themselves. And then the police ended up getting called, and the police were trying to get everyone to calm down, because everyone was freaking out. It's like quite a Muslim religious community. Everyone's really freaking out. And the police said, no, these are on electronic shutters. They've got to be. And they said the battery should run out, because it's been doing it for an hour now. And they said, no, there's no electronic control. You can only do it by hand, because this isn't right. And
you told them this?
No, this was the neighbours said this to the police.
Yeah,
because they know my friend.
Yeah.
They could go in the shop. They carried on for about 2 hours, going up and down, slamming down. In the end, it stopped, and they went. And then the police came to my friends the next day, and were asking them questions. And then they checked the camera, CCT, and the video footage had shut down the time the two guys in black come outside. And then my friend was all freaked out. He went to stay at his mum's, and then the next night they got a report of another disturbance outside, and the police pulled up in a van, and there was 4 mummies outside the shop dancing. 4 mummies in you know, like proper mummies, outside, like in a circle dancing. outside the shop. And the neighbours, there was about 20 eyewitnesses, saw the mummies outside the shop. And they danced for about 10 minutes. The police were too scared to get out of the van. That's in front of the shop. Then they just went poof and just disappeared. In my understanding, that's like NSA hologram, Project Bluebeam. It's like psychological warfare stuff. They use a lot of holographic stuff.
They're quite tall, large-headed, but not as large-headed as the little guys. They seem to have a bit more proportion to their head, but tall. Large eyes nonetheless, but as I said, taller than the little ones. So I believe
What kind of eyes? Were they big, long, round?
They weren't as big as that, but big. They were big, but not the typical biggish small grey eyes, but they had large, dark eyes. They pretty much like ours, but big, but not the curvy up kind of like around the side. That was the beginning of my, how should I say, crossover into this reality, experience them in this time frame. Well, the first thing I thought is like, wow, I've just invented a weapon that can kill greys. And I've known that these tall greys are particularly nasty.
Project Mannequin, a lot of it is about harnessing radio waves, brain waves, and it's about sending them out through televisions, mobile phones and mobile phone masts.
Yeah.
It's like they're sending out frequencies, because everybody's got a telepathic receiver, like a radio receiver, the pineal gland in the brain.
So they're using the broadcast communications system as a mechanism for mind control or mind implantation with ideas or what?
Yeah, but what they're doing is they're dampening down the consciousness.
I was using meditation techniques and also using a very large pyramid to basically focus your energy.
What kind of meditation techniques?
Just sitting quietly. There's certain practices which you can use. If you are interested in this particular practice, contact me and I'll teach you about it.
Okay. But there are many meditations.
There are many meditation practices,
so
yeah.
You were going through a particular type of meditation.
Yeah, a particular type of meditation with a particular kind of device as well,
right,
which helps you. Well, the device is actually termed, its actual name is a multi-dimensional communication device.
Is that your term, your invention?
No, it was invented by Ken Killock, also a clairvoyant. He's now dead. I think he was from Idaho. Once you're in the pyramid, it takes an hour to an hour and a half to completely charge up the capacitor plates inside the pyramid. Once that's done, it hits a layer of aluminium, it hits a layer of fiberglass, and it won't escape through that, and it fires back into your body. And at that particular time, you'll perceive a very, very, very bright flash of light. And generally, you find yourself standing outside the pyramid itself, but also aware of yourself.
This is your etheric body?
Yes, this is your etheric body, but you have full consciousness, and you're aware of two realities at the same time. And once you're in that mode, then no law of physics anywhere can control you. And I'll tell you something I've learned from someone else. I'll get onto that later. Very similar to what's described by Morpheus in the film The Matrix. He says, do you think you're breathing air right now? Do you think your muscles have any reality in this realm you're living in? It's that very same principle. And this is why they killed so many ancient Tibetan monks and South American Indians, because they could teach you that you could have pure physical force and not be in your body. So once you're out of your body, I can still walk up to you and knock you over.
Well, that's very important.
And they don't want you to know this.
Yeah.
Because basically you're just energy, whether you're aware of it or not. I'm outside, I'm energy, I'm out of my body, I have full consciousness, I could walk up to you, push you over. And it'd be like a ghost had hit you, or like something like that, because people do that, they get thrown over. And they call it entities, or whatever you want to call them. Dark spirits.
Well, I've certainly heard experiences like that myself.
Yeah, but this is it. This is why they went up into China in First World War, where they bombed tons and tons of bombs, just thrown all over those temples up in Tibet, killed all those monks. And down in America, kill as many Red Indians as you can, because they hold the ancient knowledge.
My main message is about the missing children and about the children that are being abused and satanically murdered in the facilities. So basically they're taking children into the bases, because there's like 25,000 children go missing a year in this country. And what they're doing is they've got brain implants, and they're ritually murdering them. They're like,
what kind of ritual?
they're cutting their throats, they're cutting their hands off. They're things based around that in rituals. And at the time of death, they're recording the brain waves of the children onto a computer.
How are they doing that?
By radio wave, because brain waves and radio waves are the same thing. So at the time that they're recording those frequencies from the brain implant onto a computer, and then what they're doing is they're sending that radio wave, that frequency, out through phone masts, through satellite and TVs, sending it out, and it's causing the crime rate to go up. It's causing people's anxiety levels to go up. And what they can do is they can, it's causing sexual abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse to go up. And what they can do is, by the means of death, they murder the children, they can attack the population's chakras. So when they cut a child's throat and record that type of death from that frequency, from their brain implant onto the computer, they send that out, and that stops people being able to talk to each other properly from the heart. It's effective.
Do you think that this child that's been abducted in Portugal has been involved in that kind of an experiment? This Mali girl, is there anything on that?
Possibly, but I think I believe she's really been abducted, but I think what the media do is they focus on 1 or 2 cases of missing children a year, and they totally focus on it. And what I think that's propaganda to take the awareness off the 25,000 children that go missing a year in this country. It's like psychological warfare. It's like, look how much fuss is being made over one child. 25,000 children couldn't possibly go missing a year. And when I was in the conference last year here, there was posters of missing youngsters around the college, but those children hadn't been on any mainstream media UK. So they're focusing on one child to take the awareness of the 25,000 children.
The two young teenage girls that were murdered a couple of years ago, with Man United t-shirts on. Do you know anything about that?
The Holly and Jessica. Yeah. I know a little bit about it.
They were found near, I think they were found near Leganese, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I know that the area was sealed off by the military, and there was a person who he was a jogger, and he tried to present his testimony to the court. They didn't accept it, and he was outside the courts, I think, when the proceedings were going on. He said that he was jogging past the woods there a couple of weeks before, like every night, and on about 4 separate nights he had screams coming out of the woods. This was even before the 2 children were found, and then the military sealed the area off. And then, like in the New Forest, there's children's bodies being found there with the skin removed and things like that.
Like the mutilation?
Yeah, and like eyeballs removed. Basically the lymphatic system removed, like the tongues, the eyeballs, the genitalia. I'm connected to an intelligence group called Group 5A. This is part of British intelligence and connected to the United Nations. They basically, a few years back, they were up in the Brecon Beacons area, and there's an underground NSA base under the Brecon Beacons. They were...
Isn't that an experimentation base there, is that correct?
Yeah, Brecon Beacons. They were around the area, and they were being called to the scene of camper vans around the area. People were missing and disappeared from the camper vans. And they basically got called to one scene, and there'd been 2 bodies found, a young boy and a young girl there. And they went to the scene, had to seal off the area, military style. And their eyeballs had been removed, half the skin was missing, tongues, genitals, and basically the Group 5-8 guys showed the photographs to a friend of mine, and he was a researcher who was meant to get the story out. But then he had his house burned down after that.
That is one thing which has been closely guarded by all secret societies. They don't want you to know that you can have a physical power out of your body. Getting out of your body is a big enough problem for a Westerner anyway. But to know that you can have full consciousness and drive it with a force is something they do not want you to have.
The information that I've got, I'd go with its factions in the Greys and the Reptilians that are working with the NSA and the bases. I think they're harvesting the lymphatic system, and this gets into like the Dulce material, where Greys have been seen in vats with human body parts being mixed around. They're basically absorbing the protein mixture through osmosis through their skin. I think they've got some kind of genetic disorder that the digestive system doesn't work properly.
So are the Greys and the Reptilians bases here, like a Dulce facility here?
Well, Barry King says he saw Greys and Reptilians at the Berkshire base.
Have you seen things?
I've never seen any Greys or Reptilians at the base. I've seen things that look like small kind of gargoyles, and they were wearing robes. They weren't Greys.
And do you think that they were actually earthly based, genetically altered human beings, or do you think they were actually... what's your opinion of what those beings were, and how many did you see?
I saw 3 of them. I mean, that's a long story in itself. We can go into that if you want.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of minutes if you can allude to it.
Okay, that was basically... well, in 1981, when it was taken through Greenham Common, I saw things in cages, like large wolves or dogs there. But I think they were genetic creations, military creations. But these things, basically, this was on the 4th of August last year. Again, I went out again down to the cliffs, and there was Firefly waiting for me again. This has been happening for years. It turns out, under hypnosis, I've gone out regularly and met them.
Does it happen in daylight or not?
No, not late at night. And there's been a lot of activity in my house, bedroom. Small Greys appearing, Reptilians appearing. But now I can't even sleep in the house by myself. I'm like 30 years old.
Are they projected? Are they mannequin? Are they blue beam projections? Or?
That's what I thought, but these seem very real. They could be holographic projections. They seem very real. When I've seen
so
them.
You had those abductions last year. What about this year?
It's been close encounters at night. Small Greys, tall Greys, Reptilians.
And these are the grey Greys, and not the programmable life form Greys or the round eyes Greys.
The PLFs have got the round eyes, and the real Greys have got the oval eyes.
Yeah.
The ones I've seen in my bedroom have got the oval eyes, and then wake up paralysed. And they're trying to shout or move, but you can't. And the situation's got so bad. This is happening once every couple of weeks. I'm seeing something in the room.
Is there any way that you can record that, leave a camera running? Or
yeah, I've wanted to get some camera set up. I've wanted to actually take a Geiger counter in, because I can see radio waves. I can physically see radiation, because that's part of my training, Project Mannequin. I can tune my eyes in like a digital camera, and there's very high levels of radiation in the room. But what this is called non-ionizing radiation. This is non-ionizing radiation. It doesn't get in your cells and make you sick. What they're doing is they're using extremely high frequency radiation and punching a hole, possibly from underground bases, and then coming into the room. I think Project Mannequin has a life plan for you. Every school you go to, every university, everywhere you live, it's planned by the project for you. And I think they wanted to have me down here in the middle of nowhere by the cliffs, because as I say, I've regularly gone down to the cliffs late at night and been picked up in military abductions in aircraft. So that's, and now I'm just on ice. I've got all these programs waiting to kick in, and certain things.
Can you list the programs?
I've got a program called Janus. A Greek name, two-headed Roman god of change. That kicks in when certain things happen, like martial law in America. I've got sleeping tasks, it's a sleeping program. The tasks are activated for me to do, which is like information gathering, possibly social disturbances like riots and things like that. I'm programmed to hook up with paramilitary groups. Okay, Barry King and I are the only talking survivors in this country. There's about 5 or 6 in America.
And one of the ones in America?
Duncan O'Finian, Andy Pirro, Kathy O'Brien, there's a couple of others. Duncan O'Finian and Andy Pirro are super soldiers. They've teleported through walls. They had Andy Pirro jumping out of low-level flights without parachute and surviving.
What was the solution to the implants, and what was the effect?
I had to cleanse my body.
What was the effect of the
The effect was sickness like food poisoning, but also a lot of cramps that was spread around my body in very weird ways, which I didn't thought were possible, because the pain was apparently going up and down my body. It was getting into my legs, into my waist, into my arms.
So essentially it disabled you?
I was poisoned.
Yeah.
I was heavily poisoned. Now, you can poison people energetically. It's simple. They know how to do it. They've got the technology to do it. And they can do it physically with implants as well.
What about what technology?
It's like etheric energy. They can fire a dart into you, an energy into your... And that dart itself can carry an energy signature. And that energy signature can then absorb into your own energy field. It's all energy. Everything. We need to stop thinking about the physical world. It's all energy. Everything is a vibrating atom.
Now, who is they? Everybody talks about they.
People. The people of this world still think so solidly of a solid world, when in fact it's all just energy. Well, not just.
But when they could fire something into you, are you referring to
ops,
ETs?
black ops.
Black ops.
Black ops who use multi-dimensional technology. They've got it. They know how to use it. We know they've got it, and we know they've used it. We now have a conscious electronic interface. It's there. Forget inventing fantastic computers. We've already got it. We already have it. I mean, I have an item in my pocket right now. Okay, this was in a forest. This was probably about 9:15 in the evening.
And where is this forest?
I have no recollection of place.
Were you out of body at the time?
I was out of body at the time. Okay, I'll describe it. I come to probably a two foot layer of sandbags forming an open square on one side. Down there is a stairway which leads down, and there's electrical yellow lighting. So you've got yellow bulbs all the way down. I went about 4 runs of the stairs down, and when I reached the bottom, I found what appeared to be very flimsy cages. And what I found in the cages were humans. They were of all ages, men, women and children, and they appeared to be lying on cotton wool in white robes. All of them looked to be in an extreme state of fear. They were aware of my presence when I turned up and looked at these cages were laid out, and these people were laying out flat. They were aware of my presence when I walked into the room. It was a very small room, very low. Indicated, okay, I got the indication there was a lot of small people around there. Not tall, anyway. Anyway, I proceeded to tear these cages apart with my hands. They weren't very strong. I just basically ripped the metal apart and told these people, just run for your life. Just run for your life, you know. I don't think they even knew what was going on. What I got, the impression I got clairvoyantly was these people go to this place of hell every time they close their eyes. So I think basically they're...
So these people are in the etheric state?
Yeah.
And you have gone into this base in the etheric state?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they were etheric, I'm pretty sure, but they could have been physical, but anyway, they were there, and they looked very, very scared. Anyway, I couldn't open the case, so I just ripped one side of it off. It wasn't very strong, it was like thin metal, so it looked like they couldn't escape anyway. They're in such a state of fear, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. Anyway, I got them out, I said, run for your lives, just run. And off they disappeared into the night, and that was it. I followed them because I was the last one out. Like I said, there was a huge boding fear coming down on me. I knew I'd done something really bad and I shouldn't have done it.
A bit like only a few minutes ago when the National Trust threw us off.
Yeah. We were being really bad. Anyway, I proceeded to run, and I was aware that something was following me. I couldn't see what it was. Anyway, there's a few derelict buildings on the edge of the woods, so I went and hid in one of those. A vehicle pulled up. It was black in colour. Four very short beings got out. And I looked at them, I thought, hang on, this isn't right. They were about this big, and they looked almost Chinese. But they weren't. They looked Chinese. They looked a cross between a grey and a Chinaman. And it was weird. It was they looked very grey, but they also looked like little tiny Chinamen. It was strange, almost like half-breeds. Anyway, they proceeded to follow me into this what seemed like a derelict building with a few rooms. I hid in one of these rooms, and one walked up past the doorway where I was hiding, and he had what seemed to be a surgical implement in his hand, or like a surgical gun. They then put you to sleep, sort of thing. I immediately snatched it from his hand and fired it into his head, which then he seemed to quiver and turned to jelly and collapse on the floor. And I proceeded to do that to all four of them that came in. I knocked the shit. I killed them basically. I knocked the shit out of them. Excuse my loose language. But what I managed to do, because your speed and your motion are uncontrolled by any laws, you can move as fast as you like. But providing you wouldn't be aware of it. Well, actually, you couldn't do it if you weren't aware of it. So it's something I've built up over time, knowledge that I've gained over time. Once you get to know how to operate on an OBE, you can actually influence a lot of things around you as well. So that's coming on as well. So what happened was, all of them had these little surgical devices. They didn't look very sophisticated. Just looked just and that was it. I managed to actually get each one, snatched it very quickly out of their hands. I mean, I was amazed at myself, the speed I was actually moving. It was incredible.
I mean, obviously you're going to have people who are going to criticise what you're going to say. How do you counter that? How do you actually deal with that?
I don't really care what everyone believes at the end of the day, no one would want to go through this, I wouldn't want to, I've seen kids killed, I've gone through intense trauma, no one would want to say, this is great, I've gone through this, it's an absolute nightmare, I wish it wouldn't have happened to me, I've got post-traumatic stress disorder. Criticism on your website that some of your pictures are actually things from other Hollywood movies and things. Right.
I mean, how do you counter that?
Basically, I was sent photographs by NSA people, but they told me these are definitely real, and then they made up a load of bullshit to go with them, and I was too trusting. I posted them on my website before I knew what they were.
That obviously will undermine your credibility.
Yeah, they were trying to discredit me.
And, it gives fuel to your critics.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, how do you essentially now see your critics? I mean, how do you respond to them?
As regards the photographs of my real?
Anything. You're going to have the natural armchair skeptic, shall we say. I think we know we don't. If they just say everything you're saying is a load of bullshit, you're a fantasist or whatever, how do you counter it? How do you actually get over that?
Just with the evidence, with the official NSA documents I've signed, with photographs of these these holographic faces materialising into my front room. They can be run through a computer grain analysis test and proved to be real. Pixels haven't been faked. Witness testimony, witnesses that have seen these events with the men in black outside my friend's shop. Other people in projects, in secret mind control projects that have seen very similar things to me.
Can you say who they are?
Duncan O'Finian. Andy Pearce disappeared, we don't know where he is.
James was then to appear on US radio giant Coast to Coast AM soon after this interview.